Yeah. Weird. Not what you expect.
Exactly. And then people
On air.
Yep.
Greetings, welcome to the City of Norman City Council Oversight Committee meeting of February 9th, 2023. We have two agenda items today, and the first agenda item is discussion regarding the sobering center. Is that you, Chief?
That's me.
Let's have at it. I didn't look at this. I was just saying, I didn't look at any of this, either one of these today, because I wanted to come in here, fresh eyes and ears, and no predetermined attitudes.
It's a good one. Sobering Center, there's state statute on it that I've found in Title 43A, and it says it gives you the ability to take intoxicated persons, intoxicated on anything, not just alcohol, but it could be drugs or whatever. And if they consent, you can take them to what we call a sobering center. You would have rules of whoever's running the sobering center would set the rules on who they take. You know, they may not take somebody that has fought with us or whatever. But in Oklahoma City, they seem to take a lot of people, probably 400 to 500 a month from Oklahoma City. So it's significant. Well, I think it's down 200 to 300 a month in Oklahoma City now. When they started, it was 500 to 600 a month. It's went down. Recidivism up there, which is great, is down to like 8% probably. So it's sort of nice. If they consent to go there, you can take them there and check them in. Check in at a sobering center is probably 5 minutes for the officer, as compared to taking them to the county jail, which may take at least 30 minutes. I mean, if not longer. The one in Oklahoma City, the city does pay for that sobering center, between $300,000 and $350,000, I believe. Now, well, they do, a couple of hundred a month, huh?
You're saying they pay for it, you're just talking about that's a contract to run it as
Yes.
per year?
Yes. It's per year.
All right, before you get too deep, I got a couple quick questions
Yeah.
off the top. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're good. You're good.
So with this, you're just saying, hey, we're not taking you to jail, we're not even giving you a fine, we're gonna take you over here to this place and let you.
Yeah, if they've got to
Otis?
consent to it.
Otis from Mayberry, is that basically what we're doing?
Yes,
Except
that's what it would be. You drop them off there, they take care of them. The place in Oklahoma City feeds them. Usually it's like beans and cornbread or sandwich type stuff. And they're there for 10 hours, and then they cut them loose. They have a system where they call a cab for them even then, and that cab can take them up to 3 miles away. So for a lot of them, it's good.
This eliminates any other criminal act or any.
Right. There is no
action
charge.
courts
You
or
cannot, there can be no record that we arrested them. We can record, hey, we transported them here.
anything. And they're doing, how many a month?
They're doing around 200 to 300 a month. Here, our number's much lower. Let's see if I can tell you how many public intox we have a year.
I mean, does this come down where you say, hey, we can take you to the sober center or you get to go to jail?
Yes, that's sort of what it comes to. And it could be something, they're drunk and trespassing, they're drunk and causing problems.
Don't
or-
even know what they're doing, maybe.
Right, don't know what they're doing. Here, per year, we may have, 500 to 600 a year. But, like I was telling you, the cost is pretty substantial, 350,000 a year. But that's not saying we couldn't go in with like Moore, Cleveland County, and OU to join in on this. I'm pretty sure that OU possibly has transported people up to Oklahoma City's detox center.
It kind of defeats the point of the time saving, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but I think they was more trying to save any record
Yeah.
of an arrest.
And also jail
And get them
space.
help.
Right.
Also jail stays, because paperwork, lots of paperwork to bring somebody in, book them out for just a public intox ticket.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so let me ask you this. 500 or 600, what is a public intox ticket?
$100.
$100?
Yeah.
So they're talking not that much money.
No, and we'll, while it's adding into their fines, how many people actually end up having the ability to pay the fine? We pay for them to stay at the county, and that's varied on cost there.
Have you done any analysis of like your time it takes for this and how much time it'll free up and how that might offset whatever we're
Yeah,
like, 'cause we'll have more
Oklahoma City
police
has done
resources.
that. Annually, and they included like the officer's time on wages. And I think they did the low side of what, pretty quick book in and getting out. But they save about $450,000
After paying for it, they're still saving that.
per year, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that if we, efficiency and it saves money, even if we put the money in, if we're maybe even close to breaking it, even and it's saving time and paperwork and people's lives and charges and just all they did was drunk or intoxicated in public,
Right.
I prefer that solution out there. Go ahead, Stu. Mr. Councilman Holman.
So, yeah, in 2019, then Sheriff Gibson and I went on a field trip to Tulsa, and we toured the Tulsa County Jail, the Women's Resource Center, and the Sobering Center in Tulsa.
Did you take us hack lunch?
No, they fed us.
Sorry.
But Sheriff Gibson was a big proponent of bringing the Sobering Center back to back to Cleveland County in his capacity as sheriff. And what they explained to us up there in Tulsa was that their Sobering Center was attached to a medical facility was one thing, but that they had used, basically they were funding it with the savings. They talked about how we can check somebody in here in 6 minutes, I think that's what they told us, and compared to sometimes an hour or two at the Tulsa County Jail. So like we're saving an hour or more of our officers' time, and so they were explaining to us that they were paying for that in Tulsa using the savings of hourly
Tulsa's
times.
model is based on Oklahoma City's, which a lot of people from across the nation are coming to Oklahoma City to base their program off how theirs works. Oklahoma City's is, you think that it would be bigger than it is. They have maybe room for 15 female and 18, 20 males. It's not real big. It's not as big as you might think. So a facility that we may have, that the city may have, may work out for us, or just a piece of it.
We did have one before, so like Norman.
Yeah,
did
for a
have
little bit out there off of Griffin, when you'd go straight into Griffin, is housing on the right side. I don't know that it was meeting statute, that it was set up properly. I think that's why it went away. And you talked about when they was wanting to bring one back, and they was working with the hospital. The hospital was going to take that on, but it didn't get going, so the hospital did other things.
They explained to
Developing
us in
programs.
Tulsa how it being attached to a medical, it wasn't a hospital, but that there was 24/7 on-site medical that wasn't just for the sobering center, and so that was part of how they were able, cost-wise, to do it as well.
I mean, that's some things that you got to think about. You bring these people in there and they might be intoxicated. What if they, what if it is something that they might be intoxicated then, but it might be something in a little bit after they get there that might
Right.
worse.
And they evaluate them. They have Narcan at the facility. They've dosed people there, some up to 5 or 6 times. It's been very successful there. They do work with other facilities for treatment. And if they need to go somewhere else, the officer comes back and takes them to like a hospital or somewhere else for the treatment.
Is there like a What is the cost per day per person roughly? Do they know?
I don't know.
And how long do they generally stay there? Like how long does it
10
take?
hours.
10 hours.
Our jail contract is $75 a day.
That's what it was. I think it went down a little bit.
I remember asking, I was like, it usually was like 50, and this
Yeah.
year it was
Didn't it
higher.
have like 62 or something?
Yeah, it went down this year.
Which is kind of crazy. It seems like
So it's
this time.
62 now?
Yeah.
It's $62?
Yeah, I think it went
So-
down.
somewhere-
It was 73, 74, and I think it
Per
went
day,
down
per
into
person.
around 60s.
60 something.
Would that be something we could find out?
Oh, you can easily.
Yeah,
get
we
that.
can find that out. We have a
We've
contract
had
with
that.
them.
Yeah, we've had that in here. I just can't remember. It's in the 60s, I think.
The jail has to do it every year and work up a cost sheet showing their expenses and what it costs per prisoner.
And then with the people in the sobering center and attached to the medical unit, what is the level of healthcare worker in these situations? Is it a physician's assistant, a doctor, an LPN, a med
Nothing
tech?
like that. It's volunteer people. Some of them have been in the facility themselves. Some of them have come through as a detox, started volunteering and working there as a check-in person. They just check them in and they detox there. They call somebody if they need them. They have minimal training. But that person went through, got his license as a social worker, and went back and worked there for a while after getting his social worker degree, and then moved on. There's several success stories like that they have from Oklahoma City's facility, but it's not.
So when they recognize like a medical emergency, like needing Narcan or whatever, it's not a physician's assistant LPN. It's somebody who's gone, either a peer recovery type person, like the guy who got his social worker license, or it's a volunteer working.
Volunteer that's working there on intake.
Okay, volunteer intake. And was that kind of like the RFP that OKC must have did for the contractor that's operating this? Like, they didn't set out like you have to have like a LPN or somebody. Okay.
No.
That's it for me. I was just curious.
Okay, you've told us some of the good stuff. What are the bad incidents that they have? What are the rates of violence or something going on? I know that there has to be some.
They have few. Well, I talked to her yesterday morning. Jennifer came here, and she was saying it's incredibly low for what you would think.
Most people are probably just happy they're not in jail cell, so they're going to act better unless they're
That's
just out.
probably right.
They're just like, okay,
They don't want us to come back and take them
jail.
somewhere else.
Are they
Not in jail.
mostly conscious?
Hmm?
Are they mostly conscious or unconscious?
Probably all of them are conscious, even though, see, because I couldn't imagine that. Because the statute says you can take an unconscious person there, which we would take them to medical. I mean, if they're unconscious, I just can't imagine that happening.
They can't consent to go if they're unconscious.
So they're
Right.
so they're conscious when they get there. Are they sleeping it off, or they?
They have cots. It's made out like that where they can lay down and sleep this off, and they'll feed them a meal. And then, like I said, they'll up here they call them a cab. That'll take them up to 3 miles afterwards.
So it's kind of a transportation.
Yeah, now, under this, just a statute, and I don't know that they operate, this may be something else that they operate like a treatment center, but they don't have the, it's not like a medical, or it's not like Griffin or Red Rock, it's just a detox center. But if you're going off what I see in the statute in this Title 43, the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services does have to approve the facility and how it's going to be ran. And also the creation of any program that's provided through this statute has to be approved. Well, you have to include the district attorney, take their advice, and they have to give consent for you to open it annually. They've got to approve its operation.
And is that all, through the police department or staff or what?
It would be through the district attorney's office.
No, I mean, who facilitates that? Will it be just city staff or is it the police
Yeah, it would have to
department?
be city staff or the police. We'd probably be doing that. you making sure that the approval's done, or whoever takes the facility and is operating it, they would probably get that done.
How, have you talked to any of these other stakeholder partners, maybe? OU?
No, I have
So
not
just
talked
here
to
first?
anybody. This is just the first discussion I've ever had about it.
Okay, so
But Chief Gibson would be,
with,
he's on board though.
with the
probably.
people here, I mean, what are your thoughts on the rock and roll?
Having a sobering center, yeah, I'd like to look into it more.
I mean,
Definitely a diversionary program that we could use, and we, as the police department, feel would be beneficial to divert several people that we may take to jail, divert them somewhere else
Yeah, I
to
don't,
get help.
you know, somebody's not, you know, involved in a criminal act and not causing any harm to anybody else.
Yeah, and that's
PI
that's some of the
getting
things.
taken to jail, you know,
If it's, as long as they don't, there's no other crimes.
Right.
I mean, but
minor
like what,
trespassing, yeah,
something
stuff like that.
That's one of those things like, I get it, I don't even know why. You don't want them to hurt anybody else or somebody else or do something else, so there is a reason to say, hey, you can't be out here like, out of your mind like this. But
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily if I feel like that's even criminal, but if that's what the law is, that's what the law is. But, and if we have an option to take them somewhere else, that's great.
Well, I've definitely always thought, especially in a college town, I mean,
I-
arresting people for PI
I mean, that's just,
didn't ever really sound like the best use of time or resources. But if there was no other option, then you know you.
And normally, you know, like I said, we don't do a whole lot. When Tulsa put theirs in, it was, I think there's like 50% of their arrest was public intox arrest. It was substantial up there. We don't have a whole lot of public intox. Normally it is, we see somebody that's intoxicated trying to get in a car. They're causing problems with other people, trying to
yeah.
cause a fight, or they're in a place and won't leave.
It's like most of the time, I think their discretion is there, like, hey, y'all have had a little too much, you got a safe way to go, we're gonna let you go or help you get there. Because which cop wants to do the paperwork on a public intox unless it's
Right.
necessary? And take the time out of being able to respond to other calls, and if they can just go and say, hey, we got you, we're taking care of the problem, we're dropping you off, hey, we're checked in, good to go, now we're back
5
on the
minutes
street.
for us, and
Yeah. Here's I don't know, let them put in their input too. Here's what I want to see when you bring this back to study session or full council. I would like you to have had those conversations with some of those people
We'll do it.
and say, hey, how can we can bring this? Like, I have no doubt that my guess is that this has no problem getting passed through council. And it'll just come down to the specifics, and if we have, it would be awesome if we could spread the cost and let everybody use it from around here. That's the way I see it, I mean,
and I think the
I'm
others
for
will
it
be
regardless,
interested.
but if we can do it the smartest way we can by getting everybody else to join in and say, hey, yeah, we'll share the cost with you on that, because we'll use it too.
Yeah.
Why would we not do that? And if it's a good idea for everybody, I think, and why not make it it's always better when we can work with our partners on something like this, because more collaboration is better.
And that's 300 to 350,000 is for the operation of it, and I don't think that'd go down based on the numbers, because at times they just have one person on that intake. That's just what it costs to run the place, it seems like. I'll get more into that, but
Do you have, I'm just kind of curious about that 780, 81 money that's hanging out in the wings. I heard some of it got sent, I think it comes through the Department of Mental Health, supposed to go into counties for diversionary programs. So I was kind of wondering about funding sources that are supposed to be for these things exactly.
yeah, I can look into that, and if it does go to county would be one of our partners to put money in on this.
Yeah.
So whatever, I'll look more into it. I just look at this as a initial discussion to see if there's enough interest to start going on a program like
Definitely.
this.
Mine's past just interest. Mine's like, hey, how do we get it done?
Yeah.
Can you get it done with the partners? And how do we figure out? That's where I'm at.
We'll lay it out more and
Especially
what we
senior
can do, and I'll get with the partners and stop short of like a contract with people, but
I'm guessing. I can't see it not being.
facility would be the next thing.
So we'd have
Where to do
a
it.
study session where some agencies would come in and help fill in everybody else, and we'd move from there.
Good. Yeah, I can bring back more information for like a study session,
Yeah.
council conference, something like that.
The cost savings and the time savings is what was most prominent to me on that tour, was that, yeah, officers, 5-6 minutes and they're out and back out doing whatever else they need to do. So the time, the savings and them not just being stuck there,
And,
not able to do anything else, but then, yeah, the time that they're able to go answer another call so somebody
and
else is.
also, it's a good thing just for the citizens. I don't want anybody, I mean, you can lose your job, you can, just because you had a little bit too much booze or did something stupid out, wandering around Campus Corner or something.
All right.
Like, hey, you had too much, let's go drop you off and go back, get on track, here you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people appreciate that, that's not their regular, and they might have had one night out that was a little wild or something.
Yeah, and it can cost them a lot for public intox. I mean, even one, it's on the record. If they want to get rid of it, then they got to pay for the expungements. I mean, just all the costs.
8% recidivism too. So like, if you're in OKC's sobering thing, majority
8%, 8% recidivism that they see.
Is that just like the people that are just treatment resistant types? Like what?
Yeah,
is that demographic?
we probably have some of those people here and some of our homeless population that is very resistant. Those people almost have to be forced to go get the help they need.
But I mean, also people with houses too could easily like get pulled over a couple times for, or be out drinking.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but the 8%. So, what is the secret to their success at OKC that they're only having 8% come back?
I don't know. They refer them to different things. Some of those people go to those first step programs that is in Cleveland County.
So they have would you call it like a low barrier way for people to get into treatment?
Yeah, I think they help with the referrals of getting them
Okay.
to the people. It's sort of like our continuum of care group that they work with up there, and they refer them to there. But
Okay.
the
So-
person almost has to be willing to go there.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about.
Yeah, people that want help, I think they can get them the help they need.
Any other questions? Rock and roll, go forth and bring back good information.
We'll do it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We're now going over the warming shelter update.
Okay, I was given very little guidance on what you guys want to know from me, so I'm just going to share with you just a little bit of information about how things have been going since we started. So we opened the doors on November the 1st. That was our very first day of operation. We have been at near or at or over capacity every single day since then. On the reports that you'll see on the month of November, it shows that our nightly average was about 38 people, both men and women. I would suggest that's probably higher. We have a database system that's called the Homeless Management Information System, and we enter all those people in, and I can pull those reports out, but we didn't learn until halfway through the month of November that we could retroactively add in guests that came in after staff had left. So there were some people we missed in November that came in and stayed. So basically, this is just numbers. You're seeing 148 unique people in November, 16 were veterans. I have my glasses on. 159 unique people in December. The end of December, I got a call from the city manager who said, we need to do something about the loitering outside of the shelter, because there would be, sometimes starting at like 1 o'clock, people hanging out there waiting to get a bed. And one of the reasons that existed was because in the shelter we have 40 beds, 40 cots, 14 for women, 26 for men. And every night we would say, okay, we're going to fill these up. And then the next day we would empty that guest list and start all over again. So, the scarcity of a bed to sleep in at night caused people to kind of feel panic. So they would want to get there just as early as they could possibly get there and hang out to make sure they could get in and get a bed. And so when I got that call from the city manager, it kind of gave me an opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, what's the root of that? What's causing them to overlook our request to not show up any earlier than 4:30? And two, really, are we like how good are we providing this service? So we made a change at that time to allow guests to reserve their bed. So when they come in and they check in tonight, tomorrow morning when I go in, or whoever staff goes in to close down, will say, Stephen, are you going to come back today? And most of the time the answer is yeah, because they're like, yeah, I don't have anywhere else to go. But on occasion the answer is no, because we do see people getting housing and we do see people moving on to other opportunities. And so we'll check out those guests that are leaving, and then we reserve the beds for those that are coming in, that want to come back in and stay. So I think that it's helped that problem of the loitering. I certainly haven't gotten any calls since then about it, and I go by on occasion through the day to make sure that we've tackled that problem. And so, hopefully that kind of helps with that. But one of the things that it has allowed us to do is really provide more in-depth services to the people that come and stay there. So prior to, when we were just taking the first 40 people that walked in the door every single night, we spent all of our time, 3 straight hours of case management with 3 different people, just going, okay, who's here? Like, okay, what's your name? What's your date of birth? Check you into the system. Here's some paperwork I got to fill out. Just a lot of that kind of stuff. Well, we don't have to do so much of that now. So that 3 hours that we're there doing case management, we've been able to do housing plans, connection to resources. Some of the things that Chief was just talking about that happen at that sobering center is like, okay, what got you here, and what can we do to get you out of here? And so we changed our plans in early January to this reserving bed system, and in just 1 month, we've been able to house 11 people into permanent housing using mostly rapid rehousing dollars, which is a rent assistance program that Food and Shelter operates, but also our partners, like moving them into partnership programs like Central Oklahoma Community Mental Health. So that's a really exciting number. It's 11 people that are now don't need to come to shelter. We have 14 people that were not working at the beginning of January that are now working. And part of that is, like, surely they could have been going to work before that, but when you live every day worried about if you're going to have a bed to sleep in when you get off work, all you think about is, I got to be there at 4:30. I got to be there at 4:30. So taking that stress off of them and giving them that stability. Okay, I know my bed's going to be there. I can show my work schedule. I get off work at 7. They're going to let me in at 7:30 when I get there. Has kind of allowed these folks an opportunity to breathe and go out and get jobs. And so 14 people since in the month of January, because they had the stability of a bed, were able to go get employment. We had 2 people this month we were able to find treatment beds for. So now they've gone into inpatient treatment to tackle their drug addiction. And 2 people who were here for had been living here for a while, had family in another place that said, come stay here. Let me help you get on your feet. And we've been able to get them relocated to live in permanent housing with family that can now kind of help them, guide them along the way. So it's been a really interesting new challenge for me, as I've not operated a shelter like this before, but it's been so appreciated by everybody that comes through there. Just so you can just kind of see the gratitude. We do things a little differently than a lot of shelters. It's we call it a friend's house because we want people to feel like that's how they're welcomed by friends. So we order pizza on occasion. There's a TV in both dorms, so we watch movies together and do different things like that. And it really gives people that would normally have a lot of stress and anxiety an opportunity to come down here. So it's one of the reasons our incidences are pretty low. We don't have a lot of police interventions. Most of our incident reports are medical interventions. So calling an ambulance to come for somebody who has a medical condition. So I've been very proud of the team that work there. They do a very good job of both keeping people safe and keeping within the boundaries, but also trying to instill a sense of hope in people that they know, okay, there's help out there. We can take some next steps. So it's kind of been a really awesome service that we provide, and I just thank you guys for investing in it.
Go ahead. Yours first.
Yeah, I was just kind of going over the data. I noticed that the veteran population had started out 16, looked like the height of it was 19 in December, and then down to 14 in January. And then the age distributions, I guess the 51 to 61 kind of surprises me. It's like 36 in November, December. Was December just like kind of busy?
December was cold. Do you remember we had just
that's
lots of
right.
cold spells? I mean, if I don't know what you guys got from me, I provided lots of different things. If
I
you
got
had looked at,
notes, and it says, we feel especially proud of the work Food and Shelter and Norman Caravans did during the Arctic blast that affected Norman last month. This is the December report. We did not lose anyone in the cold. We made extra room at a friend's house to get people inside, opened our dining room, and slept almost 30. And between our two agencies, moved about 80 people into motels. Yes. So, yeah, that was a busy month, it sounds like.
Yeah, we had that like 10 straight days of just really awful weather. So we did get permission from the city manager to squeeze as many people in as possible. So December was extra busy. You'll see numbers in January be lower and probably even again in February because we may be serving less unique people, but we're serving them better, I think. You know, it's fine to give 200 people 2 nights of shelter each, but if that's all you ever give them, they've not really moved themselves forward. So now we're trying to look at what kind of deep investment we can make, which is
With
how we do
your
all our programs.
Veteran population, that's like self-reported. Do they get help from the VA? Like, do you guys work with the VA to
The
help
VA
them?
does outreach at a friend's house twice a week, so
Okay.
they do come in and identify and just see are there any veterans here that they don't already have on their programs. And that's definitely been part of our referral process since we were able to change over to this kind of more intensive case management model. When we were in our early days, we just didn't have time to do much of any kind of resource connection or referral because, again, we had 3 hours to identify everybody, do paperwork, get them checked into the system, and, you know, here's a bed number, and it was just too much. This allows us kind of a lot more time, so.
I was going to ask, what are your impressions of like the age distribution and the visitors that come to a friend's house?
I mean, what I'm seeing here, and I didn't spend a lot of time really thinking about the age distribution, so it's really just shows the trend across the community of people who are homeless. So that seems kind of normal to me. I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, the homeless population Norman has trended lower. It had younger. So that's, I think, why we see a lot of young people staying in shelter right now.
Do we have any facilities in there, like showers or anything like that?
No,
I'm not sure if we did that or not.
No, there's that building is tons of space, and if that were going to be our long-term location, we would want to do some stuff like that.
Sure.
But because it's temporary until we figure out what to do next or, you know, whatever, putting a lot of money into that kind of infrastructure didn't make sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about like hygiene, if
Yeah.
people sleeping together, if that
Jobs.
in a room together, if that's an issue.
It
Yeah, if they're trying to go.
it can be smelly
go to-
sometimes.
Yeah, if
I
they're trying
mean,
to
like
go to a
dudes' feet
job
are
interview
smelly.
Yeah, sure.
But
Walking around all day.
Blaming
Yeah.
all the dudes. I've
Oh,
spent some
come
of you ladies a time or two.
come over there. The women's dorm is nice in the morning. The men's is not. But anyway, you know, all of the people get transported mostly by vehicles. Some choose to walk by either food and shelter or caravans. I'm pointing at caravans because he's on the board, but my connection to him. But get to food and shelter where they can shower at food and shelter. So
Okay.
anybody who wants to gets a shower.
Do y'all have, I guess the Hub 107, is that also, I know they have like shower and laundry facilities.
Yeah, some people go over to the hub. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that like 74 in January's report? 74 men, 52 women. Is that about the breakup or the kind of what we see with the population as a whole in your experience, that when it comes to homelessness, that
Yeah.
male versus female?
We just did our pant count, and I don't have those. I don't have those numbers in my head, and I didn't bring it. But I would say, yeah, we're running about 30% women, like across the. That doesn't factor in things like those who stay in Women's Resource Center and, women's programs are specifically, but it tends to be about that breakdown.
And do you see people, sorry, I just jumped in on
Go ahead.
Stevens. Do you see people with pets too? Like, what are the situations around that?
Yeah, we don't have the facility space. I mean, that building is a huge building. A lot of it is unusable for anything you would want to put even an animal into. But So that space doesn't have, we don't allow pets there because otherwise I would have to reduce humans. And that, we didn't want to do that. Is we're looking forward and thinking about what we would do next. We really do need to offer space for people with pets. The City Care Shelter in Oklahoma City has a kennel that's just a really wonderful space where big dogs and little dogs can go in and be kenneled and receive food and so I would really love to see that as kind of looking forward.
And what's our last day? March.
I don't know. I mean, I think the contract
As it
was like the
stands
last
now.
day of March. So yeah, it's a really, really important service. It would be so devastating to not have some sort of continued option. Yes, sir.
Have you had any medical episodes?
Oh, yeah, we do have, I mean, there's a lot of chronic illness in the homeless population. We see a lot of hypertension, a lot of diabetes, a lot of seizure disorders. So yeah, we unfortunately do see a lot of that.
What about any criminal incidents or having called police or anything?
So the most of the time there is fighting that happens. It's not as much as you would think it would be, but it does happen on occasion. And a lot of times we can resolve that. I mean, we have trained security officers at the facility that don't carry weapons or anything, but they're trained to be able to de-escalate situations peacefully. So we really rely on those, and they usually can manage almost everything.
Let me ask you this: what is the most significant or worst incident along those lines that has happened at this facility? Because the other facility, it was murder. So.
Oh, well, we've not had any of that.
So I'm just asking, like, what is the
so-
worst that since it's been at this location? I think part of it, there's a little deterrent because it's right there by the police station.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. So the worst thing I think that has happened is there was a scuffle, and it was legitimately like a scuffle, like two dudes like bucking up against each other that bumped into a person not involved in the incident who fell and hit his head and had to go to the hospital. And that's the only injury that we've had. That
All of them staying at the shelter, or was it?
Yes.
Is it bystander?
No,
outside?
this
Okay.
was inside
Okay.
the dorm. There was, yeah. So no, it was.
So along, like, has there been anything too bad or anything to worry about?
That's
Just some fights. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm comparing it to the most extreme
yeah.
that we unfortunately did have.
Yeah, and that that's such an aberration even for what we do, but. It was tragic. I knew Brad very well, and so we haven't had anything like that. We've not seen a gun. We've not seen a knife. Like, we ask people to come in, and they get wanded. They don't get shook down or searched, but they get wanded. We ask them if they would please lock up their weapons, or like knives, even like pocket knives, because men carry pocket knives in Oklahoma. People who are homeless need them, as if they're outside for reasons. They comply. We have a locking cabinet. We've not had anything that I would consider dangerous
I
happen.
know that the complaints and incidents from anything I know have seemed like they've been way down. We were inundated with emails where it was at the other place. I haven't heard anybody, I've heard people ask, like, why are all those people over there? Well, that's the
By the post
homeless
office,
shelter.
yeah.
I mean, that's about it. Like, what's going on over there? Thank God that this one has not been the nightmare that the other one was. So it's
Yeah.
not as bad. So.
And you're saying the culture's pretty decent inside because you give people options to like unwind and be in community. So.
Yeah. We also, because, and I don't know if you guys have been in the building. So the building is a room, a hallway with space that we could not use for sleeping, and then a room. And so this long hallway with all these spaces, we were like, what are we going to do with this? And so we decided to give everybody that comes in a tote, like a Rubbermaid tote, that they can put their belongings in, so keep them safe. So it's not like you're here garbage bag stuff up. Put your stuff in, and then they can keep it there as long as they want to. They know they can't access it. Once I lock that door in the morning, they can't access it till we unlock that door. But it keeps them from having to carry around everything they own at all times. And that's been a
Going
really...
to a job.
Yeah,
It's a
if you
safe
walk
place
in
for
with a
their
suitcase on a job interview, it's pretty obvious you're homeless.
It's rough.
And so we just kind of, they understand it's, don't leave anything here that's like your prized possession. Let us lock that up somewhere else. But this is their sleeping bag and their blankets and their extra pair of shoes. And so it's just one extra thing we're able to do, mainly because the building's there. We have the space there.
I guess we're able to, or maybe a lot of them understand, like, or are thankful for the place to have, right? And that if there were a lot of issues and a lot of misbehavior, if you want to call it that it could jeopardize the existence of the shelter
Sure.
even being here.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of them maybe know about that or aware of that, and probably like we're not going to have any
And I
stuff going on here that could jeopardize our situation.
yeah, and I don't want to make this isn't throwing anybody under the bus. This is just kind of one of the things that I see is I have a long relationship with most all of these people. I'm with them day in and day out. They respect me. We have a mutually respectful relationship. So when I come in and I say, "All right, guys, I'm going home. I don't want to get a phone call." They're like, "Don't make a phone call, April," and so yeah. So I think that because we're all friends. I mean, and I mean that legitimately. We're all friends. That it does feel different.
Can I throw something in from a caravan's perspective?
Why not? Have at it, you.
So I learned this today, actually, because I'm loaning my van to Alan so he can transport more people. And our biggest sort of like transportation issue are the people in wheelchairs, of which there are 7 or 8, I think, is about the number. And the loitering issue is creating a little bit of a problem because we've gotten people there since there are a more limited number of beds for people coming across the street, we've transported some people there who weren't able to get beds because they didn't get there in time, but they couldn't get there in time because we can only take one wheelchair person at a time. So I wonder if there's any, I just point out because there's one potential glitch. I see the loitering bit, I think makes perfect sense to me, but just if there's anything we can do.
Well, if they were in a wheelchair and they stayed at the shelter last night, their bed's there. So they don't. It doesn't matter what time they get there. Their bed's gonna get there.
Right, it's initial people.
So
Yeah.
and then after that, say on the women's side, I know the instinct.
Yeah,
you're
I know
talking
you're
about.
Vincent, yeah, exactly. Well, and it's a
that
terrible
was-
case, right?
But that's not why she was denied a bed.
Okay.
She got there too late, and we were at capacity, even in our overflow.
Right.
So that was a little misunderstanding. But
Yeah.
so say at 5 o'clock, we open the door. We've got 12 women already checked in. We have 2 open beds. Those beds, those spots first go to people with people in wheelchairs. So we go out and we say, okay, who's here? We take in those folks first. So we do try to accommodate that as much as possible. It's just always going to be a challenge because there's just more people who need the beds than we have beds for.
It's that half-hour period of time because we know we're not supposed to drop people off before 4:30.
Yeah.
So you get one person in a wheelchair and maybe 6 or 7 other people there, and you go back to get the next person in the wheelchair, and it's already past 5. So
Yeah,
there's
this-
some issues like that. So I
Yeah.
mean, I just wonder if there's anything. I don't know whether the solution would be to sort of like, be a little looser on the 4:30 time, or to have accommodations for new people. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is part of the problem. It's just we don't know who we're transporting. We pick up the people who call, right?
I think there's rippling effects on both sides of
Yeah,
it. Like if
yeah.
we loosen the 4:30, then at 3:15, the law office across the street is going to have a lot of neighbors.
Yeah. I
And so we
see
want to be
exactly the issue,
respectful
right.
of that too. And also, that's a public sidewalk, and they get there, and it becomes impassable. So let me roll
Yeah,
that
yeah.
over.
I mean, just to
Let's
throw
roll
that out
because,
there, and
yeah.
I think that's an issue that I think the city has some interest in too. So if there's honestly, if there's just a place where people can stay kind of off the
There's that
sidewalk.
whole
and-
parking lot across this, like next to it, but that was, city manager asked for that to not happen too.
Yeah, I was thinking in particular, the people in wheelchairs.
Yeah,
The people who
yeah.
can't.
Let me just kind of mull over
Yeah,
ahead and
that's-
talk with
that's
staff
doable.
about how we
Yeah.
can, because we want to make sure the most vulnerable people have access to space, for sure.
And it's been fantastic, by the way. I got a chance to look where everything got
Yeah.
done. It's very nice. And the tote idea is perfect, because otherwise those rooms are gonna go.
Just empty
free, right?
space, yeah.
So it's fantastic. Yeah, this is really well done.
Anybody else? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
It was
Thanks very
exactly
much.
what we're looking for, I think, that info. That's what we got
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. They were just like,
Great.
come and present. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
breakdown of the demographics of who's staying there.
If you
numbers.
notice trends.
And
too,
problems if there-
Yeah.